Hey, Yinz guys and gals, gather round for a journey like no other. It's time to hop on board the Where Yinz Goin podcast, proudly brought to you by Dreams by Design Travel. From the rivers that meet at the point to form downtown Pittsburgh to the furthest corners of the globe, that'll be your compass, your confidant, your companion in that as we explore the wonders of travel. Kick back, relax on your couch, and let the wanderlust wash over you as we discover new horizons and reminisce about old favorites. With Dreams by Design Travel by our side, the sky's the limit. Join Matt on the Where Yinz Goin podcast because when it comes to travel, the journey's just getting started. And now, without further ado, let's give a shout for your guide through the highways and byways of travel, the man with a map, the voice of the steel city, Matt Trader.
Hi, Yinz doing? Welcome to the Where Yinz Goin podcast, brought to you by Dreams by Design Travel. I'm Matt. I'm your host. Joining me today is my unofficial co-host because she's been on so many times. It's Katie. Welcome back, Katie.
Hey, Matt. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Good.
So I think you're running out of places to visit, but let's start the way we always do. Do you have a favorite place you want to bring up or a place that you would like to visit the most?
Well, I was just thinking about it, and I was watching the swim trials last night. So, and by the time this airs, all of the people that swam so hard and so fast are already on their way to winning Olympic gold medals and everything else. But I was thinking, how cool would it be to go to the Olympics? Like, go not now. So I know might come as a surprise to you, but I'm not going to be an Olympic athlete. I actually tried curling one time and it did not work. It was so much harder than it looked like on TV. I was like, I was determined that was my Olympic sport. And then I tried it and it was a disaster. But I think it would be so cool to go and plan a trip and do all of the things and cheer on and see all of like the pageantry of the Olympics and stuff. So I guess Paris is on my list right now. I'd love to go to Paris and check it out. I think that would be a cool place to go and visit.
I have been to Paris, not during the Olympics though, but I have been to the Olympics. It was 1996 whenever the Olympics were in Atlanta.
Oh,
So
wow.
my dad traveled for business. He was a management consultant and went all over the US and sometimes into different countries in Europe. Specifically, Europe was where he went on a few occasions. But he was working in Atlanta around that time. So whenever the Olympics came to Atlanta, he got a few tickets. Now, it wasn't for any medal events or anything that was big. We got some basketball games, but it was not the United States. It was like Croatia, China, um, might have been South Korea. I forget exactly who played. You know, it was close to 30 years ago. Lucky if I remember what I had for lunch yesterday. But we did get to see the U.S. play Italy in baseball.
Oh, how cool.
Though, actually, it was July in Atlanta. So it was anything but cool.
It was sticky hot.
It was really neat to walking through in the stadium. They had those misters that you now find in Disney and a lot of other places that have very warm, humid climates. So we got to walk under those misters, and oh, that felt so good. But it was a pretty amazing experience. That this was the year that Carrie Strug, it was Carrie Strug, like did the final vault to win the gold for the United States in women's gymnastics. And that the gold medal for the gymnastics was the night before we went down. So we were watching that on TV. We were up till like 12:30 in the morning. We were up probably around 5 o'clock in the morning to get a very early flight down to Atlanta. We got to see basketball and we got to walk around the Olympic Park thing in downtown Atlanta. We got to meet like the Turkish, I don't know if it was the Turkish wrestlers or the Turkish weightlifting team. They were just walking around and they had their outfits on for Turkey, and my sister got a picture with them. So it was just an amazing experience. We went all day. Then we went to baseball, and I think my dad had tickets for either badminton or volleyball too. We ended up not going. We were tired, and then we got a plane ride back that night. So it was just a long day there, but it was an unbelievable experience.
How cool is that? So I have lived in Salt Lake well, not Salt Lake, but I lived in Utah. I'm about an hour north of Salt Lake, but I have lived here all my life, and I was married and working and just like a young married couple. And when the 2002 Salt Lake City Olympics came in, the Winter Olympics, and it takes over the whole state. Like it's just there's so much to see and do, and people are so excited to be there, and you get caught up in it. Even if you're not a big sports fan, you get so caught up in the fact that there's these people that have been practicing and like working their hardest, and you go like badminton, right? You're like badminton, but they're like the best badminton players in all of their whole country. They love and eat and breathe badminton. So cool. Like Olympics are awesome. I'm excited.
Yeah, we got to see the Olympic Stadium with the torch and everything too. We didn't get to go in it, but just walking by, it was there. It's, a great event, great moment. It was funny that my sister was just walking along like the curb, like pretending she was on a balance beam. And whenever got to the edge of the curve, she jumped off. And there was a crowd around us who was walking around, and they applauded her. It was just such a fun, festive environment.
I
It was
always
great.
I always think about how much money the like the gymnastics gyms and like the swim teams and basketball and baseball and ski lessons and everything like that. Olympics come in, and there's all of these parents that have like sat their kids down in front of the TV to cheer on, and they turn and say, "That's what I want to try. That's what I want to do." And then like before you know it, your paycheck's all gone to some gym. But like how cool of a story is it that like you sit and watch the Olympics, and you turn to your kid turns to you and says, I'm going to do that one day, and then you get to be in the stands years later remembering that moment of the fact that they were like, I want to do that one day, and there they are. I think that's such a cool like thing, which is even neater to like be there in person, right?
Absolutely. And I've listened to another podcast. I think the guy's name is Pat Forty. I think he's a reporter. He's on TV, whatever. But his daughter made it to the Olympics. I mean, she's not as good as Katie Ledecky or anything, but she knew her and was like, I got to hear him describe seeing his daughter in the Olympics doing like the trials and stuff like that. So it's just amazing.
That is cool. It's cool. You never know. You never know when you're paying that club fee every month. You never know what you're investing in, right?
Exactly. But that is exactly what our topic for today is. Not necessarily the Olympics exclusively, but traveling for sporting events. And so growing up, I played all kinds of sports, soccer when I was little, baseball, basketball, football through grade school and in the high school. Switched to, well, partly because of a knee injury, switched to cross country in high school. Also played lacrosse, mainly because I couldn't hit a curveball in baseball. But took up golf, and I always joked, my dad and I, that we were above par golfers because we always shot above par. So, like on a par 62, I'd shoot really bad and get or on par 72 golf course, I shoot really bad and shoot a 68. But I do better on the back nine. So, yeah. And my little girl's in the t-ball and soccer and karate now. And my sisters all played sports. So that was our life. Growing up, we got the reputation of being always at the gym and doing our homework. And we told my mom, "Oh, they're so good. They're doing their homework." It's like, no, it's just the fact that we're going to practice after practice after practice. We got home at 9 o'clock at night. They had to do it then. So,
Right. So growing up, I'm not athletic in any shape or form. I played soccer for a while and ran track a little bit, but I'm kind of klutzy. I'm gracefully klutzy, but I'm a little bit klutzy. But my brother, who is 18 months older than I am, or younger than I am, excuse me, he played a lot of sports growing up. So I just learned that like summer, Saturdays, anytime that there was a game, I was there to cheer him on. Lived in a small town, there wasn't a lot to do. And so like a baseball game was a big deal. And my dad took the time with me to really teach me all of the like rules of the games and stuff like that. His big deal was that he's like, I never want you to get asked out on a date and have to play like you don't know what's going on with the game. He's like, I want you to be able to hold your own and be able to talk anything that you want to talk about and sports wise. So, and it's helped me immensely throughout my life, because I've actually become really passionate about, even if you can't play it, you can become really passionate about teams and sporting events and things like that. So I've appreciated the things I've learned.
Yeah, it's a great pastime that growing up in Pittsburgh, going to a Pirate game on a Saturday night during the summer. My dad had season tickets for the Steelers for years. So we got to go to, pretty much from the time I was about 10 till I graduated high school, I got to go to almost every Steeler home game.
Wow.
Beat my sister out for it. She went to some of them, but my older sister was a little bit went to college, and then I got to go to all of them when she was gone. And my younger sisters didn't seem to care quite as much, so that was always nice. Went to a couple of the Pittsburgh Penguin games, and then I've gotten to go to a bunch of other games later on. We'll talk about that towards the end of the podcast with our personal things we've gone to and great memories that we've had. But that was a sports were part of growing up. That wasn't life or death or anything, but it was something that we did and we enjoyed. That I grew up with stories of my mom telling me about the greatness of Roberto Clemente, which is also, as this is airing, I'm about to go on a trip to Puerto Rico. That it's only partly because that's where Roberto Clemente was from. We had to go to see his hometown and the 1960 Pittsburgh Pirates and Bill Mazeroski and his home run to win it, and the Steelers of the 70s. That is part of life, of the great stories that can bring a family together and unite an entire city in some cases.
Right. And it's amazing how much you can be different and then you can come together over a really great pass on a football field, or a really great hit on a baseball field, or the bounce of the blood on the ice at a hockey game. It's amazing like how different we can be, but once you put us in the same area, we can cheer for the same team and come together.
Even just the fun of March Madness and filling out your brackets. That there's this, someone who watches absolutely no basketball whatsoever, and they pick the winner based on who they like the mascot, or they recognize the name of a city or a state, or they like the team's colors.
Yeah, exactly. The NCAA Final Four and the March Madness is one of my favorite things, because it's always amazing to me how one game can totally change the trajectory of the whole tournament, right? You have teams that you don't even know anything about, that you have to Google where they're from and do they really play basketball there and all of that. And then you find out that they take down these like giants. It's like really a David and Goliath story during the NCAA tournaments. It's always fun to see like who comes out ahead and who you were never expecting, those like Cinderella teams that the slipper just fits perfectly.
And if you would like to see some of those games in person, we can help to arrange that. And actually, two of my sisters and their teenage daughters went to the women's Final Four this past year. And so they bought Caitlin Clark shirts and they were wearing them. And they got it was in Cleveland. So from Pittsburgh to Cleveland's not, it's an hour and a half, 2 hour drive. So they got to go up and they got to see the Final Four. And they're huge, all of them huge basketball fans. So it was a great experience. But yeah, there are vendors and companies that we can work with that we can help to arrange packages to go see some of these high profile events like the Final Four, like the Olympics, the Super Bowl, things along those lines. That depending on the company that we go through, some of them can arrange tickets, some of them cannot. But even arranging the flights and the hotels in a place that's not 3 hours away, and saying, oh, right next to so to get in a good area, that can be a difficult task to begin with. So being able to just get the arrangements of where you can stay and getting the hotel and everything else, just being part of the atmosphere beyond getting the tickets, is something great to just be in that town and be in the area and just soak all that up.
That's right. What we want is we want your worries to be which jersey you're going to pack, and then whether or not you're ordering the full-on combo with the hot dog and the drink, or if you're just doing popcorn. And we just want you to like be able to experience a sporting event, a bucket list thing. And I always think it's funny when we say bucket list because we act like you can cross them off and then they don't ever happen again. But if you want to do 5 or 6 different bucket list things with a sporting team, we can handle all of the little details so that all you have to worry about is how loud you're cheering and whether or not your team's coming home with the win or not.
Exactly. And just to run down a few of the different sporting events that we can help arrange for you. And now these again are bigger ticket items. So you're going to see a lot of the championship games and all-star games, things like that. Not a whole lot of the regular season except for football. They do some of that. But just going down with auto racing, especially in Europe, in Asia, the Formula One stuff. And I don't know if you ever watched on Netflix, the Drive to Survive. I believe that's the name of it. That series about following the Formula One racers. We watched a couple of seasons of that, and it's so interesting. IndyCar with the Indy 500, NASCAR. Most weeks they can do it, and specifically some of the bigger events like the Daytona 500, Bristol, Darlington, the Brickyard 400. That's it at the Indy Speedway, and I actually did the Richard Petty experience in the Walt Disney World Speedway back when they had it.
So did my husband.
Yeah, that was
did it too.
fun.
He loved it. It was an awesome experience. Just kind of a cool thing. I wish that they would bring it back. It was neat.
So they still have it at some of the other bigger speedways, but I think Disney has other plans for that territory right now.
Yeah, I think they park buses or something like that there now.
Probably. Speaking of racing, there's also horse races. Of course, the big three with the Triple Crown, the Kentucky Derby, Belmont Stakes, Preakness. Soccer, like the World Cup. Rugby, the World Cup finals for that. I have seen a college rugby game, and I have no idea what most of the rules are, but it just looks so much fun out there. And whenever my little girl played soccer, the field that they were on was right after they were done. The West Virginia University rugby team had their practice there, so we'd see them all warming up, on the other side of the field as little kids are trying to kick a ball around and not fall over and running over to mommy to get extra snacks so that before they go out and kick the ball again. But it looks just so fun. I actually have to sit down and read the rules a bit or sit with an actual fan to explain certain things to me.
That's like me with my son when he played lacrosse. I was like, I have no idea what's going on, but I know the little bits of it. So I can at least cheer, not humiliating too bad when I'm cheering for something that I don't really know the rules. So.
Lacrosse is such a fun game. That my mom is a big basketball fan. She played that growing up back when girls played 6-on-6 and they had to stay on opposite ends of the field. Two of them had to stay on each side of the field and couldn't cross of the court, couldn't cross midcourt, and the two people were rovers and could do it. She tells me all kinds of stories about that. But she said, I realized lacrosse is just like basketball with more players. And I learned the strategy. And it was so cool to watch. So tennis, the majors, of course. So Australia, which I'm certified to do travel in Australia, which is on my list of places to go. One of these days when we're in Indonesia visiting my wife's family, it's not that far of a flight from there. And actually from the US, it's not too bad. Getting to Indonesia is much much longer than going to Australia. There's just so many connections. Australia, you can get some direct flights. The French Open, so speaking of Paris, if you want to go there, Wimbledon, US Open, and Katie, you have your story about people going to London and possibly
I have some friends that he wanted to do a big trip with his buddies when the Green Bay Packers were going to play in London for one of their European games. And they all got together, and it wasn't him particularly, but one of the guys that was like, I'll take care of the flights, I'll handle that. and they ended up buying tickets to London, Ontario for their airfare. And then they ended up like, so then by the time they found out about it like really last minute that was not where they were going. And so they ended up having to buy tickets again, and for the money that they had to spend and everything like that, they ended up watching this game in a pub in London, not actually having tickets. And I know that he said it was like the best thing ever. It was the coolest experience. But if he would have, if they would have all gotten together with somebody like Matt or I, we would have made sure that they were actually in the right city the first time and handled all of those little details so that they could actually be there and experience the thrill of watching their team play somewhere different than the stadium that they're used to playing at. So.
And they would have had a hotel that wasn't like an hour and a half away from the city.
Oh yeah. Well, that's just a little jaunt.
And although I grew up and I am a diehard Steelers fan, I do own a share of the Green Bay Packers, so I can
That's
support
great.
that. But just because I want to be the owner of an NFL team, and my last name's not Rooney, so I can't own the Steelers. So, although other places golf with again the majors there, but we can also go into the Ryder Cup and the President's Cup, NHL Stanley Cup Finals, with baseball, the All-Star Game, London Games. We can do some things with spring training, which I've been to spring training down in Florida so either when you Cactus League out in Arizona or Grapefruit League down in Florida. I got to see the Pittsburgh Pirates play in Bradenton and the Baltimore Orioles down in Sarasota, which is just about 30 minutes away. But all up and down the west coast of Florida, pretty much every 45 minutes to an hour in a certain area around there, St. Pete's, Clearwater, Dunedin, there's all kinds of teams. So if you don't mind traveling just a little bit, getting a rental car, you can see a lot of different teams in a lot of different locations. And even if your team is playing an away game, it's not going to be that far. But
Well, and
whatever.
that's the great thing about working with somebody like us, right? Where we can say, okay, this is a great central spot for you to stay. And then you can go ahead and make your way to these games, but here's the center. And you don't have to worry about whether or not, like when you get home, you're way far up north and then you have to drive all the way south to the very southern point. We'll go ahead and take care of the fact that you've got a hotel and you've got a spot to like lay your head and relax after being in the sun and cheering on all of these incredible teams and players that are going to have these great seasons, and you get to be the first one to see them make their mark for the year.
And not only that, in spring training, since the big players get 1-2 at bats, so they're gone by the fifth inning or so usually, especially earlier in the season, that you get to see the future of your team or the future of baseball come up. I remember seeing some of the younger players on the Pirates when we went that became stars and then got traded to other teams because that's what the Pirates do. But we got to see some amazing athletes when they were
right.
very young players.
You get the chance to like see a player before the name on the back of their jersey becomes the name on the back of the jerseys that you see all of the kids wearing for years and years, right? So cool to like see somebody start their beginning. And that's not to say that like they're like once they make that major league team, they've given up a lot and sacrificed a lot and worked really hard to get to that spot. But they're like living their dreams, and you get to be there to watch them as they take their first bat or field that grounder or steal that base. You get to be there, and it's all because you decided that you were going to go ahead and check something off your bucket list and get with a travel advisor that knows their stuff about sports, knows their stuff about where you're traveling to, and has made it easy for you to get where you're going so that you can sit in the stands and cheer for somebody.
And one other thing that is so great about spring training is the accessibility to the players, that it's a much more relaxed atmosphere. And especially if you have young kids who are very into sports, that I was able to get. Oh, this was specific time I remember getting was 2011 at spring training for the Pirates of getting Andrew McCutcheon's autograph. And I got him to sign three balls that gave to the kids of all my sisters and it was him and a bunch of other people that got to sign too. That it was so nice that, they're just coming out and getting these autographs. Again, you can get an autograph of a young guy that you see in a game who's, puts on a show and you think, all right, this guy's going to be good. And, there's a nice collector's item there, but it just the stories of having your kids be able to meet and get autographs from their heroes, being that close, and even getting a little bit of time to say hello and talk to them a bit. That I know that my youngest sister, her boys are so into both hockey and baseball, football as well too with the Steelers, but hockey and baseball are their things. And my youngest nephew, he wants to wear a baseball jersey every day, and he wants to match his jersey with the color that the Pirates are wearing that night in the game. That even my sister is texting, "Can I find out what color jersey they're wearing?" So when you have a kid who is that much into stuff, having them to get that experience, and they've been at baseball games where they're in the outfield, and one of the players will come over and toss them a ball. And I mean, like, how amazing is that? That they talk about that for forever. My one nephew, he got one from Starling Marte several years ago, and so every time he watched a game, they'd show some guy on the screen. He'd say, "There he is!" Like, no, that's a different player. No, there he is, and he just was so excited just to see him again.
Right. So as a little girl, my dad would say we would get to travel once a year for a big trip, and a lot of the time he would make sure that wherever we were going, we got to see a baseball game. He was really into baseball, and so we went and saw. We went to Kansas City. I still remember. I think we went to the Mariners game on the 4th of July. And I believe the Mariners game is the one that has the dome over it. I think that's the one that has the dome.
In Seattle, well, they had the King Dome. It would have
Yes.
been we were young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the 90s, and I remember my mom slathering us up with sunscreen because she didn't want us to burn. And then I remember going and there being a roof over it and her just shaking her head. But we went to Oakland and we went to watch an Oakland A's game. And we got there early enough, and my brother had a ball, and Jose Canseco signed his ball for him. And it was a big deal. Like, it's such a big deal. And he became like the biggest fan and followed him and Mark McGwire and followed them through their careers and all of their ups and their downs and everything like that. And it became like something that was kind of a legend. Like, I don't know, maybe that's not like the correct word. Maybe I'm like hyping it a little bit too much. But when you're a 7-year-old boy and this big baseball player comes and signs a ball for you and makes a big deal about it, it creates this memory that you talk about and tell your kids about, and you still relive it to this day. And I think that like that, and I think that's why like sports has a lot, like a sporting event, being there in person is a lot similar to like taking a big trip. And I think that's why like you and I, Matt, are so passionate about getting people to where they can see these things, is because they really do. They become the stories that you sit and tell your kids, and your kids tell their kids, and you sit around and talk about, hey, I was there and I did that, and this is part of our memory and part of our history and our family, and something that made like an impact on us, right?
And at that time, late 80s, early 90s, Mark McGwire and Jose Canseco. I think Jose Canseco was Rookie of the Year, and they were the Bash brothers. And before other controversies later.
Yeah.
But at that time, that was amazing. And if you were in seeing Seattle, there's a good chance you saw Ken Griffey Jr. too.
I did. We saw Ken Griffey Jr. through the sunscreen that was slathered on.
And you were in Seattle too, and it's never sunny.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like we didn't have a Major League Baseball team in my town, but we went to a ton of games growing up. We went and did San Francisco Giants. We did Kansas City Royals. We did all of the like wherever we could travel to, we went to a game. And like I remember growing up going sometimes going, oh, really? But it was part of the fun of a family trip, the fun of like doing something different and new. And I know for sure that my mom and dad would have really appreciated somebody that could handle all of the details so that we weren't staying somewhere that was so far out that it was hard to get to these events and everything like that.
Yeah, and we went to a lot of baseball games too whenever we traveled. Another time that we were in Atlanta for a vacation, we got to see the Pittsburgh Pirates play Atlanta. So, and I almost got a foul ball. So twice. The one I just missed, and the other time we were right by where the Pirates bullpen was, and one of the backup catcher got a ball, and he was just standing there. He tossed it over his shoulder, and it bounced on the seat next to me. And I went to swipe at it with my glove, and the guy next to me got it. Oh, so close. But we got to go see. We went to Dallas one time. We got to see the ballpark at Arlington, which was it's so gorgeous there. This was back when it first opened too, and it was like 107 degrees there. It was so hot. But we got to see them play the Kansas City Royals, and we got to see Bo Jackson play.
Yep.
It,
Oh, Matt, we're showing our age. Oh.
well, to show it more, one of my nephews is getting into baseball cards now. And so I went through some of my old ones, and I have like the 1986 Pittsburgh Pirates, which was like the first pack of baseball cards I got. And he was like, who are these old guys? I'm like, Jim Leland's on that. Well, actually, it was Chuck Tanner, I think, was the first one. But then I had Jim Leland, and I was like, he's in the Hall of Fame now. So we're getting into the Hall of Fame this year, which is just going to happen soon, too. He was also looking for a Barry Bonds card. That I found one that wasn't his rookie card, but it was one of his first few years. And we looked on eBay, and they're worth like $5,000 if they're high quality enough. He's like, "Can I have this?" No. Can I look at it more? No, keep it in the plastic container. Leave it there, please.
They don't do Beckett's anymore, right? The Beckett magazines they would publish. The Beckett would be a magazine that would have all of the prices of the baseball cards and stuff like that. I'm sure that they don't anymore. I remember learning some mathematical equations using the Beckett magazines.
Hey, whatever works to learn math, I'm all for that.
That's right.
Uh, taking it. Also, if you wanted to do a multi-city trip to follow your team, that my cousin actually did this a couple years ago. That he's works in one of the casinos in Las Vegas, and he actually is an author. He's written several books. That I'm interested to read his new one. Just a little plug. It's called Ex Millennials, about a group of millennials who travel back in time to live in like the 1980s as part of Generation X, and all the stuff that they have to adjust to, which it's funny in its premise of things that. So I can't wait to read it. So, but he went to followed the Pittsburgh Pirates around to several cities to see games, and he actually caught like two foul balls like back-to-back nights. It was
Cool.
pretty amazing. But I know I've heard people who go to see all major league stadiums or all the NFL stadiums or whatever. I'm not anywhere that far along the lines, but I've either seen games or done the tours of, I don't know, I think it's like 8 or 9 different Major League Baseball stadiums that, I've been out to San Francisco, whatever they call it this time of, this year. It was AT&T Park whenever I went. That is a gorgeous stadium. Not quite PNC Park in Pittsburgh, but it's gorgeous. Been to Wrigley Field. I've gotten to see Fenway. I haven't gotten to go into it yet. But here's another thing. Even if you are at one of these cities that they don't have a game that night, or it's not during baseball season, you can still go into the stadiums, and whether it's baseball, basketball arenas, hockey arenas, football stadiums, a lot of them have their tours that you can go, and they run them during the off season.
Right. And we have access to a lot of those like they're similar to what an excursion on a cruise is. We have access to vendors that offer those kind of things. So if you're there, if you've missed a chance to go ahead and see them play live, you can actually go in. We can arrange for a lot of those stadiums to go and check out a tour, see the things that the details that you would miss probably when they're full, and kind of experience like a different side of like that sporting event, right?
Even getting into like the locker rooms or the where they do the broadcast for the radio and TV broadcast room, whatever you want to call that. I forget, studio, not quite studio, whatever. But with, I know at least at Wrigley, we got to go onto the edge of the field. We were not allowed to walk on the grass, but as a few of us we walked over and we got to touch the grass of Wrigley, which, that's where Babe Ruth had his called shot back in, was it 1932 World Series, and so many great players that went through there. And if you ever seen the movie 61 Asterisk that Billy Crystal did, huge Yankee fan, that when the behind the scenes stuff, they were showing how they filmed it. And I think it was in Detroit, whatever the old ballpark in Detroit was. I can't think of it at the moment. But they got to go into the dugout, and down in the little tunnel, they had a little bathroom. And Billy Crystal, being the comedian he is, he's like, "Do you know how many famous Hall of Famers went pee in that toilet?" Just not quite what you normally think of, but it's true. So, but anyway, we can get off of baseball. But we're almost getting off baseball. But Katie, you said that your dad taught you to keep score also.
Yeah. Yeah, I spent lots of summers. My brother played baseball, and my dad was a coach, and I watched a lot of baseball. So my dad taught me to keep score, and it like out of those old paper books and everything like that. And it actually was fun because my husband played baseball in high school, was a really good baseball player, and that was one of the things that when we started dating and things like that, I was like, "Oh, look at that play, blah 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 blah," and he'd be like, ah. It's amazing how you learn like the little, as a fan, you learn the things that are just incredibly like the skill that's involved in a game and to play the game at a higher level. And the fact of being able to witness that as like a fan is an amazing thing. So you start small, right? And you learn things that, I don't know. I was always able to like talk sports with my family and my friends, and I've always loved, even though I'm not athletic, I've always loved the idea of the, I'm trying to think of the exact way that I want to put it. I've always loved the idea of how it starts small. Like just like I think about it like now I think about like that the cute little mom that was like, I'm gonna go buy you your first pair of baseball cleats. I'm gonna go buy you your first pair of baseball cleats, and how that first step on the field became something like so phenomenal. So like all of their dreams and all of the sacrifices that their parents made and the people that love them and the sacrifices they made to become great starts with just a small little step.
And coaching t-ball and 4-year-old soccer and other things, and seeing my nieces and nephews go through it too, that it's something that can turn into starts with a little fun game, it can turn into a passion and eventually a career. That, as you were saying before with the Olympics, all that hard work and seeing it pay off, and when you think about the hours spent and all that, yes, it's amazing.
And I think that like what we're talking about is like if you want to go and see one of these events, you don't necessarily have to, on some of them, it can be built into a trip, right? So it doesn't have to be a fully themed, like we are going to do only baseball and only this, but we can put together a whole itinerary that's personalized to the things that you love and your family loves, so that if you want to go and travel to San Diego and you want to do the whole beach trip and you want to see all of the great sights of San Diego, and then you want to also go see a game at Petco Stadium, we can go ahead and make the itinerary personalized to you so that you have the best of everything, because a trip doesn't necessarily have to be centered around just this one event. We can spread it out and make it so that everybody, from grandma to grandpa to your daughter to your son to your wife to you, we can make sure that everything is taken care of so that everybody has some part of a trip that is kind of like when you go to order ice cream and there's enough flavors for everybody that there's nobody complaining. I like a trip that there's enough things for everybody to do, that that everybody's happy. When you unpack that luggage, everybody has like this great story about something that they loved and were passionate about.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, that all of our trips during where we went to games in different cities, and even when I travel now, that I'll try to see a game in, if it's in the summer, if there's a place that I was going to Baltimore one time and I checked the schedule. Oh, the Orioles have an afternoon game. How convenient. And so I got to go see Camden Yards, which another amazing
It's a
stadium.
beautiful park.
Yes. And just going around another student like that, that with spring training, it can be a spring break trip. And it's, hey, let's go to the beach. Specifically with Bradenton, they have Anna Maria Island and Longboat Key right there, which are, it's on the Gulf side of the ocean, so it's not very big waves. It's very family friendly, but it's a nice time at the beach. It's fairly quiet. You get away, you can relax, and then there are things to do within driving distance. There's all the miniature golf. You can see a bunch of my dad and I went there. We played miniature golf in a place that had little alligators that were all around the area. Now they were caged in, so they weren't going to get onto the course or anything, and they were only maybe a foot or two long at most, so they weren't.
That like brings a new thing to like a hazard, right?
Definitely. But something else that Katie said before about knowing the locations and how far you have to drive. Yeah, if you're in Bradenton and the Pirates can go play the Twins down to Fort Myers, that's going to be a 3-hour drive. So you might want to not make that road trip. Find another team that's closer that you're going to play. So
I got the chance a couple of weeks ago. It wasn't for football, but I got the chance to go to Las Vegas, and we got the chance to go into the new Allegiant Stadium for the Raiders. And I'm not a big Raiders fan. They're not my team, but that stadium was beautiful. And it was so gorgeous and so well done. And the history, the pictures that they had on the walls, and it was just really a cool place. And I told my husband, I was like, we need to go to a game here. It would be so much fun to go to a game here. And there is some expertise that comes into going to games. You need to have somebody that can say, okay, now you can stay at this hotel and you can walk. You can stay here, but you're going to have a shuttle, or you're going to have to pay for parking. And sometimes like having somebody to like just take care of those details to be able to say to you, yes. I didn't realize until I became a travel advisor how much geography really does matter. And you really do. You get a sense of like how things are situated and everything like that. And it's always good when you're traveling when you're planning a trip to have somebody that will bring their expertise in. I know that Matt and I both, and all of our agents at Dreams by Design, we make sure that we listen to our clients. A good travel advisor listens. And we listen really well, and then we tell you the stumbling blocks that you can come into. And with planning one of these big trips centered around a big sporting event and things like that, you need somebody that's going to be able to help you get there and not make you feel like you've ran a marathon by the time you're done.
And Katie, something you said about the geography is very, very true. That if you want to go see the San Francisco 49ers play, you don't necessarily want to stay in San Francisco. Their stadium is a little bit farther away from that. We're going to see the New York Giants play. don't quite go and stay in the middle of New York because
Right.
we'll put you in New Jersey. It'll be a lot closer and a lot less.
This is true.
So, although the Cowboys, Raiders, and Packer home games are specifically some of the games that some of our vendors do work with specifically, just because they are more of the more popular teams. And like Katie said, not necessarily a Raiders fan, but I love the mystique and the history of the Raiders and how they were the bad boys and John Madden back in the '70s. And I've read his books and very entertaining guy. And even the Cowboys, I'm extremely not a Cowboy fan, but I would love to go to see their stadium. That it looks so amazing. Same thing with the new one in LA. That some of
Well,
the new
we
venues are
won't,
great.
even if we're not a fan of your team, we won't heckle you as your travel advisor if that's who you want to go see. We'll make it happen for you. We might question your taste, but we aren't gonna like heckle you about it.
Yeah, and I was kind of disappointed the Steeler games are not on that list of special games. Although it's a misnomer that Steeler fans travel. It's just that so many people left Pittsburgh in the '70s and early '80s that we just live everywhere else and just show up to games. So we don't have to necessarily travel for them. But as Katie mentioned before, with her acquaintance going to the wrong London, we can get you accommodations to go to the games in London, and they're coming up this year with Brazil and Germany, even the Super Bowl. They do have some other regular season games since they are more popular. People tend to travel for them, and it's a little bit more predictable and easier to get to since they are only once a week and usually on Sunday afternoons. So you're not quite giving up, so much work time to go to a 3-game series in the middle of the week in Cincinnati for your team. So, and beyond football, the NFL, we can also do some college football, specifically the bowl games like the Rose Bowl, and not even just the Rose Bowl, but the Rose Bowl parade as well. So if you want to go to Pasadena, especially, let's see, it's January 1st. Most of the country is cold. Maybe go to Southern California. Not quite. It's a nice trip. So
For sure. All of these things are things that, like, if you want to do it, get with us, talk with us. Let's go ahead and make it happen. Let's plan it far in advance. These are not trips that you say on a Tuesday that you want to be there for the game on Sunday. Get with us. Let's start talking about them. Let's start making plans. Let's start getting deposits taken. Let's get your tickets for what you want to do and what you think that would be something that you've dreamt about, but let's just make it happen. The thing is that no matter what, you're going to think about the trip. Why not plan it? Why not have that on your list for next year? Why not have that on your list for 18 months from now? So that when things are getting like a little bit crazy and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so tired of the every day. You can look at your calendar and go, but I'm going to go do this. And it's something that I've thought about and dreamt about for years and years. Because the thing that happens is that no matter what, time passes and you might as well take advantage of making some spectacular memories. And Matt and I are for sure here to do that for you. We want you to go ahead and experience things. We want you to cross those things off your list so there's room for more things to add down at the end of the list.
or room to do something again. That don't wait so long for your bucket list of you do something that, oh my God, that was such an amazing experience. Okay, it's done. You can always do it again. So there's always
Right.
chance. And beyond just some of the sporting events, the other things that some of these companies that we can book with for you through them is the Albuquerque Balloon Festival, which they had one here in Morgantown, a much smaller scale, but we got to see balloon launches. We actually got to go. My little girl got to go into one of the baskets of it. Didn't get to go up in it. They were anchored down. They called it like a night glow, where it was in the evening around uh, sunset and then into dark that they had all the balloons tethered to the ground, but they had them all up and they had their flames going and lighting them up and everything. And unbelievable experience. The next day we got to actually go and see them launch. And my little girl was very upset. She's like, I want to go up in one. So, but we're planning that. We tried to do it in Disney, but it was too windy the one day. So the characters in flight balloon. I've gone up with a couple times, and then once alone and once with my wife. And so we hopefully we'll get her up there. And there are other cities that do them, specifically down in Australia. The Canberra Balloon Festival is just amazing, and I think there's also one in New Zealand. So if you want to incorporate other things, unforgettable experiences into your trips, also the Calgary Stampede, I'd love to see that. The big rodeo and everything. That looks like such a fun event. There's so much going on there.
So I think that maybe what we should like put in our title is not just like travel advisor, we're wish granters. I wonder what color and how big my little lantern would have to be, my lamp that you have to.
We'll have to put some disclaimers on the wishing because there's no wishing for more wishes and you can't bring someone. That was Gene, sorry. So, in other things beyond these big ticket events, don't pass up the smaller events that you can go to. That been lucky enough that around this area there's a lot of double A teams, single A baseball teams, independent. If you're up in Boston, the Cape Cod leagues. Here in Morgantown we have the Morgantown Black Bears, which used to be a low A team for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Now they're independent, but it's a way that you can see a sporting event that's not going to break the bank. So especially with my little girl, I know she's not going to sit through an entire 9-inning baseball game. And especially my wife's not going to do it either because she'll get bored. She's there for the food. But so if we go, we get to pay $5 for a ticket, $10 for a ticket, and we make it through maybe the fifth, sixth inning, it's not that bad. Or for something that, living in Morgantown with the University of West Virginia, we've gone to a women's soccer game. We've gone to a women's volleyball game, a women's basketball game. That it's $1 to get in, and they sometimes let kids in for free. That not only do we get to have some entertainment for a few hours, we get to expose my little girl to a different sport. And the one thing I really like is that she's getting to see other women do these sports. So it's, oh, they're like me. Maybe I can do that. And we've seen gymnastics, and it's not quite the Olympic level, but it's a good competition. And she's always climbing and jumping on things anyway. We just put a new swing set in the backyard. We had to cut down
So
our.
you need to bring her out to Utah and have her come to the University of Utah's Red Rocks team, because our Red Rocks team out here has Olympic gymnasts that were former Olympic gymnasts and some that are actually going to Paris this year. And you get to see them for that. You get to see Olympic quality gymnastics at a lower price.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, those Red Rocks, they fill the stands too. It's crazy. They'll fill the whole Huntsman Center, like where the University of Utah men's basketball team plays, the University of Utah women's basketball team plays. The gymnastics team will fill an incredibly huge stadium, and tickets go quickly for them. Yeah, I like the idea of like bringing your kids out to see somebody like excel at something. And there's also the fact of the flip of the coin too. Having your kids watch somebody that doesn't necessarily have a great meet or strikes out, and they get up and do it again. There's so many lessons to be learned in sports, so many things that your kids can watch and learn and soak in. The things that we constantly as parents are trying to teach our kids, where they can watch an event and learn like that. You don't quit, you don't stop. That they kept trying, even though it was a disaster that first inning, they got up and did it again the second inning and succeeded.
And another great thing is the team atmosphere and the teamwork. That I don't know if it's like this for the gymnastics whenever you get to see it, but for the college ones, there were only 6 or 7 athletes who actually performed each event, and then the rest of the team was on the sidelines. And the entire time that the gymnast was going through a routine, they were cheering them on. I mean, it was very vocal, very enthusiastic, supporting. It wasn't like, okay, yeah, it was almost screaming at the top of their lungs. That the young ladies who were not performing got just as good a workout in because they were so enthusiastic and getting into everything. That just the support and everything in the team atmosphere was just such an amazing environment. And again, we didn't have a whole lot of people there. We got front row seats and we were feet away from them as they were doing some of the routines, which was really amazing.
That's so cool.
Some of the other things that minor leagues with football, I've gotten to go to an arena league football game in Wheeling, West Virginia. Some of the lower hockey levels that whenever I was in college in Erie, they had the Erie Otters. They're ECHL, I believe. And in Wheeling, they have the Wheeling Nailers, which is AHL. Again, you can see a game that is not going to break the bank, especially whenever you're traveling, no matter which city you're going to, check the schedules, check to see their minor league teams, not even just the pro teams, to see who's around and something to do. And even you can see some history too. That in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, which is not too far from me, it's about 2 hours away. That's where they filmed the Slapshot movie, the Charleston Chiefs and the Hanson brothers and everything at the War Memorial Coliseum or War Memorial Arena. That you can still go there and they have little displays for the Slapshot stuff, and it's it's a real nice environment. And even for amateur stuff, besides college, which is now turning more professional, the Little League World Series in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, or the Pony League World Series in Washington, PA, which is a short trip up the road from me here. That I've my dad and I've gone to Williamsport, and it wasn't during the Little League World Series, but they have a little museum there. We walked through the museum. We were passing through on another trip. That actually took us to the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, New York. My dad and I have gone to the football one in Canton. I still want to go to the Hockey Hall of Fame in Toronto. I want to see the Stanley Cup. I know they won't let me pick it up, but I want to see the Stanley Cup. There's the Basketball Hall of Fame in Springfield, Massachusetts, the NCAA basketball one in Kansas City, Missouri, the NCAA football one in Atlanta, Georgia. So all over the U.S., there are these different Hall of Fames. And Kansas City also has the Negro Leagues Hall of Fame, I believe. I know there's a museum for it. I'm not sure if it's officially the Hall of Fame for it, but that's on my list. So I've heard major league players that whenever they come to Kansas City, they've gone to that as one of their day trips before the game. You know, they have a game that they go to whenever it's an evening game, and they speak very, very highly of it. So those are all fun things to fit into a vacation that's not necessarily going to be seeing an actual event, but it's seeing something that's sports related. And those halls of fame, the history, and if you know and love the history of any of those sports, it's just, oh my gosh, I'm looking at the shoes of Willie Mays and stuff like that. It's just talking about bucket list things of seeing history. It just takes another it's on another level.
I totally agree. I think that I guess my thing with all of this, and probably after talking about so many of these great sporting events and stuff like that, I think that maybe the thing that I would want our listeners to walk away with is the fact that if you're passionate about something, if there's something that you are completely all in, we as travel advisors, we will help you to find the things that you love, find the things that are going to make you have the best trip ever. And honestly, I find myself with my clients, they tell me, hey, we like this. And I actually become really passionate about their passion. Like, if you want to go and do something cool, get with us, talk with us, let us help you narrow down the list. Let us help you find the things that are going to be different and new, things that you might not have thought about, things that you never thought you could afford or you could see. Let us help you do it, because I love nothing more than my clients being able to say, I did that and Katie helped me do it.
And to extend what Katie just said, we don't have these set itineraries of, oh, you're going to Boston. Here, you should do these things. Or we mentioned this with Disney trips too, or to Universal. There's no such thing as here's your Disney trip, here's what you should do. That every trip is different depending on your family's likes, your family's needs, your family's wants for a different trip. And we will figure out what you like to do and work around it. For example, the one couple that I helped go to Alaska, they said, okay, we want to go to Alaska. And that was it. What do you want to see? Okay. And then through talking to them, I got to get them to say a few other things. Okay, we would definitely want to see this. We definitely want to see that. And we were able to make a really nice itinerary for them that they
That
had.
was completely personalized for them, that they couldn't have gotten anywhere else, because you listened to them and you figured out exactly the things that they were looking for and then used your expertise to get there.
Again, Katie with her poetry and her great way of saying things. That I have a cousin who's going to go to Alaska, and they're hoping to eventually move there. So their trip of checking places out to see where they eventually want to live and to experience things on that level is completely different from my other couple who went up there to celebrate their 20th wedding anniversary, and where the husband was once stationed in Alaska in the Air Force. So completely different purposes of traveling, different reasons for traveling, and different past experiences that then lead to different itineraries for each individual person. And so there's no one size fits all, or here we're going to shoehorn you into this. It's we'll build your vacation around what you want to do and what interests you. Because as Kay said, to make it to be the most memorable, most enjoyable trip for you as possible. She just gave me the nod. So
I was like, oh, I was just thinking of all the things that we've talked about and how I'm going to have to get on some of these things because I want to go do them myself. I think I might be booking a trip to Denver for a Rockies game and a couple other things in the next little bit, because it's time to go do some great things.
yeah, and you said about even fitting things in. This was years ago. I was in college. I went to a convention in Phoenix. And of course, again, conventions always go to wonderful cities at a most inconvenient time. I've been in Austin in the end of July, Phoenix in August. I've been to Boston in February. It's like, okay, we need to work around this. But whenever we were in Phoenix, we did get to go to what was then Bank One Ballpark and got to see a baseball game. So we got to see the Diamondbacks play, and I got to see Randy Johnson pitch. Now this was like 1999, 2000, somewhere around there. So again, showing how old I was or am, but again, building these things into just other trips and having a side thing, and or hey, I really want to go see them play. Ooh, this is a nice city to go to. Hey, yeah, if you convince your other significant others or other people who are traveling with you, oh no, it's not just to go to the game. It's look at all this other fun stuff in this city.
Yeah, and then you just slip a game in when they're not thinking about it, and it'll be our secret. Like we'll book it for you, and then we'll just keep it a secret so that you can just kind of be like, "Oh, we ended up here."
Instead, we can find all those other fun things in the city for everyone else to do, and you can. So again, get everyone find something they want to do.
Right, that's right.
So before we head on to the next segment, Katie, is there any other thing you want to add before we do travel tips and other things and start wrapping up?
No, I'm just really excited about thinking about all of the opportunities that our clients have to check things off their list and how we're going to make them help them do that. I'm just excited. Like it makes me, it's like Christmas morning with all of the packages under the tree and knowing that big one's for you. I get so excited thinking about all the chance to make the look, we're ultimately like the best team manager, right? We're kind of like the ball boy. We bring all of the important equipment to the game, and then you get to go ahead and go out and hit that home run with a vacation that's just perfectly planned for you.
So if you have a destination or experience that you'd like to have us discuss on the Where Yinz Goin podcast, or if you'd like to share your favorite destination or a travel tip, feel free to contact me. I'd love to hear your feedback and ideas. Katie, do you have a travel tip that you'd like to share?
Yep, I think that the most important thing is to do it. And that's the thing, like you can sit there and think about it and talk about it and dream about it, but go ahead and contact us. Get with us. Tell us that you want to go here and do this, and then let's make it happen. Let's make it happen. Let's make it so that you can go ahead and say, I did that instead of I wish I would have done that. Because that's the thing is that no matter what, time's going to pass. You're going to still be dreaming about it. You're going to wish you'd done it. Let's go ahead and make it happen. We can do it. We can help you plan a trip that is one of those trips and one of those things in your life that you think, I am so happy that I did that. I want my clients to do that. I want my clients to reach out to me and be like, hey, Katie, I love that. Let's do it again, or let's do this, because it's so important to go ahead and like, it's important to dream, but it's important also to kind of handle those dreams and make them happen. And I am excited to help my clients do that.
Now Katie's also auditioning for another career as a motivational speaker, and she's gonna get called into all these sports teams. She's gonna be like the halftime or pregame speech and everything. She's gonna pump everybody up.
We talked about it already. I was always the best cheerleader. I wasn't the best player on the team. Didn't even wasn't even really worthy of like suiting up in a uniform, but I was always the one cheering for the person that was playing. So.
Oh, and actually, what you just said reminded me of something that we did not bring up is for a lot of the amateur sports that the Wide World of Sports at Walt Disney World hosts a ton of amateur events each year. So if your kids team is going down there, and actually, I've had clients before who have had their kids were specifically in dance that they were going down, and that's pretty much their summer travel with me. Is okay. Here's where my kids' summer dance thing is going to be competition. So we're going to book a trip to that city, and I've played a couple different ones. One year in Florida was not in Wide World Sports. It was closer. It was in the convention center, closer to Universal. This year, that's in Wildwood, New Jersey. So they're doing a beach vacation. So it's always nice to see where they're going and to have different experiences through that. But even if you want to go down and see some of these tournaments, and they are some top AAU tournaments. So again, we were talking about seeing the stars of the future, especially some of the basketball tournaments and stuff. That they get some high-profile players that you're going to see at your favorite college, or maybe go to the NBA eventually, or some future major league players or whatever else. Or even just we were watching this we were at a restaurant. It was on the TV that they had cheerleading competitions and dance competitions at the Wide World of Sports. That if your kids are into that, going to watch that, and some of these young athletes are amazing with the acrobatics they can do, and they have futures as gymnasts as well with everything that they can pull off. So there's an extra little added bonus, especially if you're making a trip to Walt Disney World. Check the schedules and see what's there. And it's nice to get a day away from the park to kind of relax and not have to wait in line all day. Need to see some fun competition as well. But my travel tip is to be aware of where you're going and what you wear. So as a Pittsburgh Pirate fan, if I was going to Miami and I wore a jersey, it would not be that big of a problem. If I'm a Steeler fan going to Arizona to see the Steelers play the Cardinals, again, it's not going to be a big deal, especially because half of the population of Phoenix is former Pittsburghers anyway. So, but if I'm going to see a game in Philadelphia, no matter which sport I'm going to see, and no matter which team my visiting team is, I'm not going to wear those colors. I'm going to wear something neutral, something black, or if I want to try and blend in, do the black and orange if it's a hockey game, or wear some green if I'm going to see the Eagles play. I would not wear opposing teams' colors in some stadiums. So back when the Raiders played in Oakland, I would not wear anything else going into the black hole there. In Vegas, it's a bit different atmosphere, so it's more of a destination, so it's a little more acceptable. But please be aware of what you're wearing. So you don't necessarily need to wear your team's gear if you want to wear something just a little bit more, or something with their logo, maybe just a little bit with their colors. Maybe do that if you want to support the team, or go neutral. but please be aware of what you are wearing and where you are wearing it, especially when people get some liquid courage in them and have so few too many alcoholic beverages during an event. Just be safe when you're and smart when you're traveling.
That's super good advice. I think we hit this out of the park, Matt.
Another great sports
Yum,
analogy.
yum.
That's why she is the best in the business here. So, Katie, how can people contact you?
You can shoot me over an email at katie@dreamsbydesigntravel.com. My Facebook page is Dreams by Design Travel with Katie, and my Instagram is Katie Dreams by Design Travel.
I don't know if we hit out of the park. I think we might have scored a touchdown or gotten a hole in one, but just had to try to one up you on that. I'm sorry. So, for me, my social media, I'm at Matt with DBD on Facebook, X, and Twitter. Email is Matt with Dreams by Design Travel. That's MATT at dreamsbydesigntravel.com. Our website for our company is dreamsbydesigntravel.com, if I can get that out correctly. This information is all in the episode description. So if you want to contact us, book a trip, or have any questions, you can find it there. You don't have to try to write it down, listen to us. Please like, follow, subscribe, leave a review, tell a friend. Katie, any final parting words?
No, it's always good to talk to you, Matt. I think I'm going to get my jersey that says that I'm the unofficial co-host of your podcast.
We'll get shirts, and we'll have to get the Where Yinz Goin podcast shirts made up so we can sell them.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, that is a great idea to get the sports jerseys. I know some other groups I'm in, we've had hockey jerseys and baseball jerseys made up with stuff on it just to make it a little more, unique. So, yeah,
I'm all in. I'm all in for new fashion accessory. I'm all in.
And USA, I was going to wear my 1992 replica Dream Team Larry Bird basketball jersey, but it's in the wash. Well, actually, as a Pittsburgher say, it's in the wash. It's got to be washed.
I'm so excited to see how many dreams come true in these Olympic Games. It's going to be amazing.
And yes, I'm excited. So enjoy the Olympic Games. And again, use that as motivation to book your next trip. And join us next time. We're heading out, Nat. We'll see you later. So long.
Thank you.